Hello CraftDee Family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So Crafty. For today's DIY projects, I've selected 10 of my absolute favorite DIYs that you can create using the Tumbling Tower Blocks from the Dollar Tree. Now these projects were so fun and easy to make, and they all include the blocks, also known as mini Jenga blocks, as a main part of the project. Now for your convenience, I will provide the link to the original tutorial in the description box below, and those links will include the full list of supplies and templates for each project. Now I'm so excited to share this tutorial with you, but before we start, I wanted to say hey, and welcome back to my fantastic subscribers and visitors to my channel. If you are a new visitor to my channel today and you love to create fun and easy DIY projects on a budget, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and also click that notification bell so you will be the first to know when a new DIY tutorial is ready to share with you. So now, let's just jump right into these projects. Now for this project, we'll start with 2 bowl vases from the Dollar Tree. And we'll also need 2 packs of the natural wood tumbling box from the Dollar Tree. Now we're going to start with staining our blocks, so I'm protecting my work surface and gathering up my supplies. And I'll be using my favorite stain, this Jacobian by Minwax. So just start by removing all of the blocks from the package, and you want to make sure you grab some gloves since this can get pretty messy. Now I will be staining all of my blocks, making sure to cover all of the sides. Now if you do get the package of blocks that have the multiple colors, you can definitely use them, and I think they would give the stand a unique look, but if you can, try to get all natural blocks to emulate this look. Now once these are all stained, you just want to sit them to the side to dry out completely. And now that they're dry, we can start assembling our base frame. Now since the frames will be different heights, we will assemble one frame 3 blocks high and 3 across. And then this other frame will be 6 blocks high and 3 across. And we'll be making 2 side supports for each set. One will have 3 blocks high with 1 block on the side, and the other one would have 6 blocks high with 2 blocks on the sides. Now I will be adhering these together with wood glue from the Dollar Tree. Now I'm also going to be using this carpenter square from the Dollar Tree to make sure that my pieces are nice and even. So we're going to start by adhering the first 3 blocks together as shown here. And then putting that 1 block on the side. And we're going to make 2 sets like this. And then we're going to adhere the 9 block base together as well. So then I'm going to adhere the side pieces for the other base, and then the big base for the other tall piece. And here are all the sets glued together, and you want to make sure they dry thoroughly. Now once they are all dry, we can start to put our stand together. I'm going to grab the pieces for my short stand, and I'm going to place them together in a T formation. And then I'm going to take that wood glue and I'm going to add it to the side supports, and I want to adhere it to the center of that base. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the tall stand. Now after these have started to bond, we're going to apply a block on each end of that support. And I'm just going to apply a dab of that wood glue on each one of the ends. And then I'm going to place one of those blocks on the very end of each piece. And we want to let these dry completely. Now once they're dry, we can add our bowls. Now to these bowls, I want to add some of these white rocks that I purchased from the Dollar Tree a while back. And I'll also use some of these succulents that I purchased from the Dollar Tree as well. Now I'm just going to add some rocks to my bowls, and I want to add about half. And then I want to place a succulent in each one. I'm just trimming it down to make sure it fits into the rocks. Now once you've added both of your succulents, you are done with this project. And here is the completed project on display. I think they turned out fantastic. Now I really love the look of these succulents with the wood, and it really looks high end. We'll start with 2 boxes of tumbling blocks from the Dollar Tree. We'll need a set of these glass Tealight holders from the Dollar Tree. Now the first thing we're going to do is lay out the sheer bonder silicone mat and grab the tumbling blocks. Now I stained a bunch of these ahead of time with my Jacobian stain by Minwax. So now you just want to grab your straight edge for your blocks and your hot glue gun. Now I will be using the SureBonder wood hot glue sticks for this project today. Now for each stand, each side will be 3 blocks long, and we'll be assembling 12 sets of 3 blocks. So now that we have all of our sets, we can bond the 3 strips together. Now we're just going to apply hot glue along the narrow side of the strip and adhere the 3 strips together. And this is one side of the stand, and we'll repeat this for the other strip. So now I'm going to take my carpenter square, which is also available from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to stand the sides up and glue them together. And once those 2 sides are bonded, then you just want to add the 2 remaining sides. Now, you want to make sure that you're sandwiching the sides in between the top and bottom pieces. And here is your first stand completed. So now for the second stand, we will have 2 blocks on the sides and 3 blocks on the top and bottom. So you want to start to assemble your strips just like we did the first time. Then once your strips are all made, you can start to bond together the 3 strips. Now you do want to make sure throughout this process, you just want to make sure you remove any glue easing out between the seams for a more clean look. And now we can assemble our second stand. And we want to make sure for this stand, we want to sandwich the shorter side pieces in between the 2 longer pieces. And now your two stands are complete. So now you want to grab your two Tealight holders and you want to remove them from the package. Now these will be placed on top of our block stands, but first we're going to paint these with this Krylon Satin Black spray paint. And here are my Tealight holders all dry. So now you can just grab your stands, and now what we're going to do is we're going to apply one of the Tealight holders on top of each one. So to secure these, I will start by adding some E6000 to the top center of each stand. And then I'm going to add a line of hot glue around the bottom of the Tealight holder and press it right on top of that E6000. And here are my two stands completed, and now you can add some candles. So coincidentally, I didn't have any Tealight candles, but I did have these votives that fit perfectly. And here are the stands on display, and I really love this look. Now I think the wood with the black accent is perfect for guys and gals and can be decorated to fit either space.
Each mirror, you will need 2 boxes of these tumbling tower blocks and one 11 by 14 wall mirror. The first thing you want to do is to remove all the packaging from your tumbling tower blocks. Separate your blocks by color if your set contains both dark and light blocks. Here I am showing you how the blocks will be assembled together. It's a good idea to use a right angle ruler to make sure your pieces will be aligned properly. I purchased this ruler from the Dollar Tree as well. When you get ready to align your blocks, it's helpful to use other blocks to help with the alignment as well. We want to use a combination of E6000 and hot glue to adhere the blocks together. For any glue that oozes out of the connection, you can remove with a skewer or a pencil. And here are all of the 8 side pieces assembled. You will use 10 blocks for 4 sets and 12 blocks for the other 4 sets. Now we can assemble the entire frame. We're going to start with the outside of the frame using the longer pieces, laying them out as I show here. Next, we can start adding the shorter sections to the inner part of the frame. After the pieces are adjusted to fit, we can adhere them with E6000 and hot glue where the pieces connect. We want to make sure we allow them to dry completely. And here's the frame completely dry and secured together. Before proceeding, we want to go ahead and lightly sand the blocks down to remove any imperfections or glue buildup from the assembly. Now we're ready to prime. I'm going to be using this Krylon all-purpose bonding primer, and I will apply 2 light coats, letting them dry for 30 minutes in between. Once the primer is dry, we can apply the color. I will be using this brilliant silver spray paint by Krylon and lightly apply 2 coats, letting it dry 30 minutes in between each coat. While the frame dries, we can go ahead and work on the mirror. Start by removing the packaging around the frame from the mirror. Next, we're going to go ahead and make a simple hang wire for the back of the mirror. We're going to use some wire that I picked up from the hardware section of the Dollar Tree some time ago. Cut a piece roughly about 12 inches long, and we want to make sure we fold it in half twice to make a double strand. Then we want to go ahead and twist the strands together. Then we want to go ahead and take our needle nose pliers and coil each of the ends up a few inches. Now we're just going to flatten and adjust the hang wire so we can apply it to the mirror. Now grab that E6000 and we're going to apply a generous amount to each one of the side coils. We want to go ahead and clean up any excess with a skewer or a pencil. And we're just going to take this and push it to the side to dry. Now that our frame is dry, we can go ahead and apply the mirror. Flip the frame over, and we want to place the mirror on top of the frame facing down. Take a pencil and mark the top and the bottom edges for proper alignment, so when we glue it down, we know exactly where to place it. Now grab that E6000 and apply it to the blocks that protrude inward toward the mirror. Finally, take your mirror and carefully apply it to the frame, making sure that you align it with the lines that you just marked. And press that mirror very gently in place and allow it to completely dry. And then when it's dry, you can hang the creation. This project was inspired by Z Gallery's Fin Mirror that retails on their site for $299. I love the similarity of this project. Don't get me wrong, I love Z Gallery and their glam designs, but we can create this Dollar Tree dupe for only $3 per mirror. That's definitely a DIY on a budget.
Now for this project, we're going to need 1 box of this 72 count Tumbling Tower Blocks set from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to lay out my Surebonder silicone mat and my straight edge. Go ahead and remove all of those blocks from the container. So you can stain ahead of time if you want to. I didn't have much time to do this and I'm going to stain afterwards. Just be careful when adding your glue, and I'm going to be using wood hot glue by Surebonder. So we're going to start adhering some blocks together, and we're going to apply that hot glue along the side of the blocks, and we are ending up going to add about 12 blocks in this row. You just want to repeat the gluing process until you have all 12 blocks nice and even. Now once you have this first one done, we're going to do 3 more. Now you should have a total of 4 sets of 12. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be adhering together of 6 blocks. Now we're going to make 2 sets of 6 blocks, and here are those completed. Now for the remaining blocks, we're going to be adhering 2 block sets together, and then we're going to be adhering 4 block sets together all on the sides. And here are those pieces all together, and now we can start assembling our box. So the first thing we're going to do is take those 2 long sides, and we want to lay it up on the sides, and then we're going to take the 2 short ones. Now we do want to line these up with the short pieces go a little bit inward towards the edge, not quite on the edge, a little bit inverted, just a little bit. Now once they're laid out, you want to go ahead and apply the hot glue to the block set and place those sides right into place. Now once both the side pieces are in place, go ahead and lay it back on its side, and we are going to start to add hot glue to that last 12 block piece. And then we're going to secure that in place on the side of the short blocks. Now here is our box frame all completed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the top trim. So we're taking one of those 4 block sets and we're going to line it up along one of the long sides of the box, making sure the inside edge is nice and even with the block. And then we're going to add the 2 side pieces, again making sure that the inside edge is nice and even. Now the outside edge will overlap the block side. And then we're finally going to add that last long piece, and this should fit perfectly into place. Just apply that hot glue and sit that right into place. So now we're going to work on the bottom. So we're going to take those last 2 12 block pieces and we're going to adhere those together right down the center. And then we're going to sit that right on the bottom, centered between the 2 sides of the box. Now just apply a generous amount of that hot glue along those short sides, and then you want to place that piece right in the center. And now our box is fully assembled. Now I did notice there's a tiny little gap on each side of the bottom, so in order to remedy that, I am going to grab a couple more of those bamboo skewers that I got, and I am just going to lay them on the side. I'm going to trim them to size, and to secure them, just run a thin bead of hot glue along that seam and press that bamboo skewer right into place. And we've done this for both sides. So now we're ready to stain our box, and I'll be using that same Jacobian stain by Minwax. I'm going to go ahead and start staining the box by staining the inside first, making sure that stain is applied nice and even. Then you want to do this for the inside and out of the box. And once you have it done, if you have any gaps, again, take that little tiny paintbrush and apply that stain in all those seams you couldn't reach. And now that it's done, we can sit it to completely dry. So now that it's dry, we can start to decorate our box. So I just chose to go with some succulents that I had on hand from the Dollar Tree. Now you can add some of these black rocks as an accent at the bottom, or you can add some white rocks. And I think I'm going to go with the white rocks for this project. So the box is very shallow, so I'm just going to fill that void with a little bit of this crumpled up craft paper, and I'm going to lay just a white paper towel right over the top. And then I'm just going to fill the rest up with some of these white rocks. And now I can just start adding all of my succulents into the box, however you want to arrange them. Just do it to however your heart desires. And here is the final look. I think it is just so sweet. Now I love the color of the succulents and the wood, and it looks so awesome together. One of these Wood Kids puzzles from the Dollar Tree, a pack of these Tumbling Tower Blocks from the Dollar Tree, and 4 paint stir sticks that come in packs of 10 for 98 cents. Now we want to take out about 20 of the tumbling blocks and set them to the side. And we also want to grab our paint sticks and set them to the side as well, and then grab our puzzle piece. We want to go ahead and remove all of the packaging. Now you can remove the puzzle pieces on the back, but I'm going to go ahead and leave them in and secure them with wood glue, because this leaves a neat and level finish and great presentation if you plan to sell them. So now that all the puzzle pieces are secure, we're going to go ahead and cover them with some brown craft paper. Now all we're going to do is just run a bead of that hot glue all the way around the puzzle side and secure it into place on the craft paper. And then we just go ahead and trim off that excess. And now we're just going to go ahead and sand off that manufacturer's imprint on the wood side. So now I'm going to go ahead and lay out my cutting mat, and I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I want to trim off that remaining craft paper around the edges. Now my puzzle measures about 11.5 by 8.5 inches, so we want to make our paint sticks fit. So I ended up trimming off about 1/2 inch from the 2 long paint sticks to measure 11 inches, and I trimmed the other paint sticks down to 6¼ inches to fit in between the 2 long sticks. Now once I had all my measurements in place, I took these outside and trimmed them with my jigsaw. So here are my pieces all cut and ready, and now I'm just going to go ahead and test fit these to make sure they fit the puzzle board. Everything looks good. So now we're ready to stain. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down a plastic bag to cover my working surface. Now I'll be using this Rust-Oleum stain in a color Cabernet, which is a really deep red cherry color. Now I know this can get messy, so I'm going to go ahead and put on some gloves. Now make sure your stain is mixed well before you use it. And you can also use an acrylic and paint and water mix if you don't have stain. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an old towel scrap, and what I'm going to do is apply the color to the wood puzzle. Look how rich that color is. Wow.
And then I'm going to apply the stain to the tumbling blocks and the paint sticks. And then we're just going to sit these to the side to dry. So now that everything is dry, it's time to adhere them together. So to do this, I am going to be using wood glue. Now I'm going to go ahead and start by placing my tumbler blocks on the puzzle board with 5 blocks along the long side and 4 blocks along the short side. And now that they're all in place, I can secure them with that wood glue. And here are all the blocks glued into place. Now while that dries, we can go ahead and glue the top trim together. Now I'm just going to attach the pieces together the same way we did when we measured them out on top of the puzzle. Now once we're ready to place that trim on top, we're just going to go ahead and apply a bit of wood glue to the top of each one of the tumbler blocks. And for extra security, we're going to put a small dot of hot glue on each corner. And then we place that frame on top and press gently into place. And then we just let this fully dry and it's ready to use. And here is the completed project already. Now this color, wow, I'm so thrilled at this rich wine color on this tray. This tray is such a showpiece, and I have embellished it with a few ivory candles and some greenery as an accent. For this project, you will need 4 boxes of these tower game blocks from the Dollar Tree, and a piece of foam board that you'll use for the base. You want to start by opening all the blocks and removing all of your packaging. Now you'll notice that my blocks came in 2 different colors, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and separate them into 2 groups, since sometimes they vary in size and texture. So now grab your foam board. So what I did is I sketched out an octagon shape, and I'm going to use that as a guide. Now you can do this as well, making sure that each side of your octagon is about 2 1/8 inches. Now all I'm going to do now is I'm going to trace that shape onto my foam board in 2 different places. Then I'm simply going to trace over it with a marker just so I can see it better. Now here I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to cut off the excess foam board, making sure you leave a slight edge around those shapes. Okay, so now we're going to start building our vases. You want to start by adding your first layer of blocks. You want to stand them on the long side and shape them around that octagon shape. Laying them out will give you like a visual so you can see how they'll appear before you glue them down. Now once everything looks good, go ahead and take your first block, and you want to add some E6000 and some hot glue, and you want to secure it into place. You want to repeat this all the way around your octagon shape for both shapes. Now for every layer that you'll add from now on, you will only use E6000 on the block.
And here's the progress so far. Now to show you in detail, this is how each block will be placed with the E6000. Now all you do is shift the blocks to make sure that they're in the right place and make any adjustments. If you had used hot glue here, they wouldn't be able to be shifted. And once they're perfectly in place, you want to apply hot glue on the inside at where the corners touch. And here are the completely built vases. They'll end up being about 9 layers high. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut them apart and trim off that excess foam board using the shape of the vase as a guide. And here they are, cut out and ready to go. And now we're going ahead and taking them outside and preparing them for paint. Now I will be using 2 light coats of this Krylon all-purpose white bonding primer. And once that dries, I'll put 2 coats of this Krylon Brilliant aluminum spray paint. And here they are, fully painted on the inside and out. Now that they're dry, we can use them in our home decor. Now I want to make a couple different floral arrangements in mine, so I just gathered up some florals from my stash and I created a couple different themes. Just wait until you see them. And here they are, all decked out. Oh my gosh, look at these vases. They're so beautiful, and the roses, they look amazing. That silver color just makes all the details in these stand out. These are so versatile, and just by adding something as simple as flowers really creates a beautiful display. Now for this project, we'll need 2 of the square MDF art signs from the Dollar Tree, and these come in several different designs and patterns, and you can use any similar pieces that you may find. We'll need 2 boxes of the tumbling blocks from the Dollar Tree, 2 of these wooden garden stakes that were 50 cents from Dollar General, but you can get these from Lowe's as well, 1 of these silver bowls that come in this 4-pack from the Dollar Tree, 1 napkin ring, and this comes from a 6-pack from the Dollar Tree, 1 shower curtain ring, and this is in a 12-pack from the Dollar Tree, and one gift box lid that I had left over from a previous project. Now the first thing we're going to do is have the garden stakes cut down to 12 inches each, or you can use square dowels as well. And then you can prepare your 2 box art pieces by removing all of the ribbons and embellishments. Now you also want to flip them over and remove the hanger hardware and also those stickers on the inside. Now on one of the pieces, you want to sand down any art or glitter until it's nice and smooth, because this one will be the top of the lantern. Now just set those to the side, and I'm going to lay out my Surebonder silicone mat and grab my tumbling blocks. So I'm going to grab a straight edge and start hot gluing the blocks together in sets of 3, and you do want to make sure as you glue these together, you want to clean up any oozing glue out of the seams as you go. Now you want to continue this until you have 8 3-piece sticks. So now you want to take one of those sticks and 3 loose blocks, and you want to space them evenly along the top of that stick. And then just take another stick and place it right on the top. Now once everything looks good with this placement, we're going to start gluing them together, and I'm using a carpenter square from the Dollar Tree, and this will ensure that all the sides are nice and even. So start applying the glue to those center blocks to the bottom stick first. And then you want to apply glue to the top of all 3 of the center blocks, and you want to place that second stick right on top. So now we're going to repeat this for the remaining sets and also complete this on a second box of blocks. Now you'll end up with 8 of these balustrade style pieces when you are done. So now we're ready to assemble the lantern, and you want to gather up your stakes and unsanded box art, and this will be the bottom of the lantern. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply hot glue into each corner, and we're going to apply 1 stake into that inside corner, and this is a temporary hold. Now once they are all secured in place, we are going to apply screws to the bottom side. So we want to make sure our supports are nice and secure. So I'm going to drill a pilot hole into each corner through that stake. So then we'll use 4 of the number 6 1-inch wood screws in each one of those pilot holes. So now that we're done, we can apply our balustrade pieces. Now here I'm going to align one end of that balustrade piece with the stake edge and letting the other end slightly overlap. We're just going to repeat this all the way around the bottom of our lantern and just apply the glue to the areas that come in contact with those stakes. Now for that second art piece, we'll be applying the pieces around that top edge, and you want to make sure that the block piece is flush with the inside of the frame and slightly overlaps the outside. Now it'll be placed all the way to the corner, leaving a space at the end to accommodate the piece that will go on the next side. So then you want to continue this all the way around. Now I noticed that applying the block sets before the stakes makes a nice clean fit, so be sure to do it this way when you make your lantern. So now we can work on the lantern topper. We want to grab one of those silver bowls. Now you notice that the top edge has a curve and it'll create a gap when applied to a flat surface. And to even this out, we're going to take a sheet of sandpaper and we want to sand the top of a bowl in a circular motion until it's nice and level. So then I'm going to take the top of my lantern and my box lid and I'm going to center it right on top. And then we're just going to trace that shape onto the top of my lantern. Now just grab that hot glue gun and we want to run a bead of hot glue along that line. And then just place that box lid right on top. Now to secure that seam, what we want to do is run an even bead of hot glue along the edge of that seam. Now this will also act as a seam that would look like welding, so we want to make this as neat as possible. So now grab your bowl and trace that bowl's shape onto the top of the box. And then you want to add your glue around that traced area and then apply your bowl in place. And then don't forget to add that clean bead of glue around that seam. Now go ahead and grab that shower curtain ring and your napkin ring. You want to cut the clasp portion off of the shower curtain ring. Now this will be fitted on the sides of the napkin ring, so we want to apply a dot of glue to each side of that napkin ring and then add that shower curtain ring into place. Now once it is set into place, go ahead and add a little bit more glue so that connection is nice and secure. Now once that dries, we can apply this to the top of the bowl. Now to avoid any messy glue, just apply a generous amount of glue to the inside of the napkin ring and then quickly place it on top of the bowl, allowing that warm glue to drip down onto the inside of the bowl. And then just add a few more squeezes inside of that napkin ring to secure everything into place. And now our assembly is complete and we can prepare to prime our piece. Now I will be using this Zinsser primer. Now it provides great coverage and dries super quick. And here is my piece all primed and dry. And now here I'm just going to check for any imperfections, and once I check it, I can move forward with the final paint. Now I will be finishing this piece with some Krylon flat black spray paint, and I want to apply a couple coats, letting them dry about a half an hour in between the coats. And here are our pieces all painted. Now to finish the look, I'm going to cover the bottom, and I'm just going to use this scrap piece of a black foam sheet. I'm just going to apply glue around the bottom of the lantern, and once that's applied, I'm just going to place that lantern on that foam sheet. And then you want to grab your cutting mat and X-Acto knife and just trim off all of the excess. And now that that's done, we can start to assemble our lantern. Now, we're going to place those 4 stakes on the inside of the lantern topper. Now, this is meant to be snug, so you just want to gently squeeze those stakes together to fit into the top. Now, you can press the top all the way down till it hits the picture frame, or you can just line it up with the bottom edge row of blocks like I did here. And now all you have to do is decorate your lantern. And here it is. I added a few decor items and a couple of battery operated candles, and I love how this turned out. This really turned out so beautiful in the classic black, and it really looks high end. And it really looks beautiful in white too. Pack of tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. We'll need about a half of a foam board from the Dollar Tree. And you'll need an assortment of these free leaf prints, and the link will be in the description box below. So we're going to start by making the frames with the tumbling blocks. Now you certainly can use a basic Dollar Tree frame for these if you like, but I'm making these since it's super easy and I can use items I already have on hand. So each frame will need 18 pieces, with 2 sides being 4 pieces and 2 sides being 5 pieces. Now you do want to make sure you use something with a straight edge when adhering these strips together. So you're going to assemble the 2 strips of 4 pieces, and then you're going to assemble your 2 strips of 5 pieces. And these are the pieces for one frame. So now it's time to assemble the pieces for the other frame. So now that all of our pieces are assembled, we can put our frames together. So we're just going to use our straight edge, and we're going to hot glue all of those ends together as shown here. And here is our first frame. And repeat this for the second frame, and both pieces are now made. So now we can just take a piece of that foam board, and we want to lay the frames on top. And then what I want to do is trace both of the frames onto the foam board with a pencil. And then I'm going to cut both of the pieces out using a ruler and an X-Acto knife, and you want to cut about 1/8 of an inch inside of that marked outline. And now comes the fun part. We get to choose which cardstock prints we want. So I printed out all 4, and then I chose 2 that I would actually really like to frame. So what I'm going to do is that I want to trace the outline of that foam board onto the face of each print. And once both of the outlines are traced, I'm just going to cut them out with scissors. And so now we can adhere those prints to the foam board, and I'm simply going to use hot glue to do this. And these are ready to go. So now that our frames are nice and dry, they can be painted. So I will be using this black acrylic paint to paint the front and the inside and outside of both frames. And once those are dry, we're just going to flip them over so we can apply our plant prints to the frames. Now I'm just going to apply a bead of hot glue to the back of the frame, and then I want to press that foam board print into the center of both of the pieces. Now to hang our pieces, what I want to do is I just want to apply a piece of jute twine to the back of each piece. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to crease it in the middle, and then I'm going to apply some hot glue to each one of the tails. Now you do probably want to double check to make sure that each print is right side up. And now we can hang these and add them to our decor. Now I absolutely love the detail on these. Now there is something about black and white prints that really looks high-end, and these definitely make a statement. Now for this project, we are going to start with one of the 72 count packages of the tumbling blocks for the Dollar Tree. Now, if you want to stain the blocks, I recommend that you do that now and let them dry before assembling your wagon. So go ahead and open up all of your blocks. If you want to keep it natural, that would be great too. Now go ahead and grab 2 of the straight edges, and we'll need this to go ahead and align our blocks together nice and even as we assemble them. And how we're going to assemble these are in 2 block sets. So what we're going to do is use our hot glue, and I'm going to be using this Wood Sticks hot glue by Surebonder. This is a lot stronger than regular hot glue, and I highly recommend it. So go ahead and start to adhere 2 of the blocks together, and we want to adhere them end to end. Now each of the long sides of the wagon will have 8 of these 2 block sets, so go ahead and get 8 of them ready to go. So now we're going to start to assemble one of the long sides of the wagon. So go ahead and grab one of your 2 block sets, and then we're going to grab one of the loose blocks. Go ahead and apply that loose blocks to that 2-piece set at the bottom, forming an L shape. Then grab another one of the loose blocks and place it and hot glue it on the other side. Then we're going to take another one of those blocks, and we are going to adhere it right between where the top and bottom block meet. And then we could just grab another one of those 2-piece sets and put it on the other end, and this forms how our picket shape will look. So we're just going to grab a couple more blocks, one at the bottom, one at that middle seam, and another 2-block set. And we're going to continue this until we use 6 of those 2-piece block sets. Now we should have 2 open ends and to apply our remaining 2 sets. So we are going to apply these, but we're going to sit these up on the side, not flat like we did before. And we're just going to apply some of that hot glue to the end of our fencing and apply that last block on its side. And then we want to apply the other end of that fencing piece on its side as well. And now we have one of the long sections complete. So now what we want to do is create another one of those long sections the exact same way. So we're going to set those to the side and we're going to create the 2 end pieces. Now all we're going to do to make this is to have a 2 block set in the middle and 2 blocks on each side like shown here. And here is what one of the end pieces will look like. And we want to make another one so we have a set of 2. So now what I want to do is add some extra security to the blocks. So I'm going to use some of these craft sticks from the Dollar Tree. They fit perfectly on the blocks where you can't see them from the good side. So just apply some of that hot glue to that craft stick and you want to lay it across where it crosses 2 of the seams. And this is going to add extra reinforcement to the inside of our wagon. So you want to apply these along the seams on the inside and make sure you use 6 craft sticks on the inside of each one of those rails as shown here. And you also want to add 2 sticks to your side pieces as well. And once all of your pieces are applied, this should be nice and secure. And so now we can start building in our basket portion of our wagon. So I'm just going to apply some hot glue to the end of the short piece and apply it right on the end of that side piece on each end of one of the long rails. Now once you repeat this on the other side, we should have 3 sides complete and adhered. And so now all we have to do is place the other long side right on top. So go ahead and apply some hot glue to the 4 end pieces that are facing you and place that last rail right on top. We want to press it together firmly and now we have our completed wagon basket. Now you can apply some hot glue on the inside seams if you like for reinforcement. It's all up to you. So now I'm going to set that to the side and we're going to form the base. Now you can use 3 of these square signs from the Dollar Tree. These usually come out for every season and 3 of them fit perfectly for the bottom of the wagon. Now right now in stores they have the St. Patrick's Day squares that fit perfectly, or you can use any season you may have on hand. Now I'm just going to use some leftover scrap wood and I have 4 pieces of 1x2 adhered together, cut to the size of the bottom to use, and I'm just repurposing these, or you can use the squares if you like. Now to adhere these, I'm flipping the basket upside down where all of the ends are facing me. Now we're going to work quickly here, making sure your hot glue gun is on high temperature, and we want to quickly apply a dab of glue to each one of those ends that will be applied to your bottom board. Now once it's all applied, quickly flip it over, make sure it's lined up with the base and press it firmly into place. And now our basket is adhered to the base. So now we're going to work on the handle for our wagon, and I'm going to use some of these dowels from the Dollar Tree. These are thinner than the Walmart ones, so I'm going to use this size dowel for the handle and this size dowel, which is a little larger, that I got from Walmart for about 50 cents for the main handle. So I cut a little piece of the smaller Dollar Tree dowel out for that top handle as shown here. And then I'm going to use 2 additional jingle blocks at the bottom to sandwich the larger dowel in between to make sure it's held into place, and it will also allow it to be functional. Now being functional is totally optional. You can hot glue these in place, but I wanted mine to move, so I'll show you how. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to apply some of that hot glue to the top and press that little handle piece right on top. And then I'm going to lay out a piece of scrap wood, and I'm going to lay down one of my Jenga blocks supported on the other end as well. And I'll have a little scrap piece of dowel just to level the other Jenga block right on top. So I'm going to be sandwiching this in between it. Place a little dab, just the tiniest dab of hot glue on one of those Jenga blocks. Press your dowel on top and then add another dab of hot glue and press and sandwich that dowel right in between there. You want to make sure it's nice and even. And then I'm going to take one of these nails. This is just a little brad nail that I use to hang things on the wall. I think I got these from Dollar Tree in a little pack. And you just want to carefully hammer it through the Jenga block, through the dowel, out the other end. You do want to make sure that scrap wood is on the bottom so you don't nail into your work table. And here is it all sandwiched together. So now that that nail is through all 3 layers, you'll see that that handle is movable and you'll be able to use it as a functional piece. And then for the little piece that's sticking out, I'm just going to clip off with a wire clipper and put a little dab of hot glue on the end so it's not as sharp. So originally I planned to paint my wagon black, so I was either going to use this acrylic paint or this flat black spray paint, but of course I'm always changing my mind through the process. So I said I want a white wagon. So what I did is I decided to go ahead and prime it with some of this Zinsser 123, which is a nice bold cover agent, and it helps with covering up all the imperfections. So of course I changed my mind again and said, I want a wood grain. So I'm going to use this Waverly Antique Wax to create my wood grain. So like I mentioned before in the beginning of this tutorial, please stain your pieces before you get started, just in case you change your mind like me. But this ended up turning out great. So you guys know I love working with this Waverly Antique Wax, and all you have to do is apply a nice good coat, and the bristles on the paintbrush actually create a beautiful wood texture. So I'm just going to start with one side, going on the inside and outside of all of the edges and pieces. And then just complete the process covering the entire inner basket and bottom of the wagon, and this actually looks really great. So you just want to make sure you sit this to the side to completely dry. So while that dries, we're going to paint our handle. So I'm going to use some of this black acrylic paint, and I'm going to use my paintbrush. I want to make sure it is nice and covered with 1 to 2 really good coats. And then for the bottom, you can remove that spacer that you had in there and then paint the inside of those Jenga blocks too. Some of this won't be shown, but it's good to be safe in the long run. Now once it's all covered, go ahead and sit it to the side to completely dry. Now I also have this 3-piece bucket set that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I want to have these a different color. So I'm going to use these for the inside of my wagon. Now before I paint it the color, I am going to prime it with white, and this will only create a bonding layer for my final color. Now that they're primed and all ready to go, I'm going to go in with this hammered metal look Rust-Oleum spray paint to give them a nice metallic metal look. So while that dries, your basket should be good to go if you've allowed it to dry for a few hours. So I'm going to flip it upside down, and I am going to be adding that handle on. So all I want to do is take that Jenga block portion, and I am going to center it right on the bottom of my basket. Now once it's centered right on the bottom of the base there, we are going to apply a couple dots of that wood glue, hot glue, to the bottom and center it, press it into place. Now it should bond fairly quickly, but once it just gets that original set, go ahead and apply a generous amount of that hot glue, wood glue around the base and in between it. We won't be screwing this in, but the hot glue should work very well in keeping this nice and adhered to the bottom of your wagon. So now we're going to set this to the side and work on our wheels. So for our wheels, I'm going to use these little motorcycles that I got from the Dollar Tree in the toy section. So they're pretty easy to just snap off, and I'm going to snap off the wheels of both of these motorcycles. So now I'm just going to determine where I want these, and they're pretty easy to place. So I'm just going to place them at the bottom of the wagon, near the front and near the bottom, and this looks like a good place for me. So once I get the placement, I'm just going to take my little poker tool that I got from the Dollar Tree and just poke a little hole of where that wheel lines up, just kind of marking the placement. And then I'm going to go in with my drill, and I'm just going to drill a small hole for some screws. Now you really don't need pilot holes since we'll use short screws, but I like to err on this side of safety, and I'm going to be using some of these 3/4 inch wood screws to apply my wheels. So what I'm going to do is place one of those wood screws in the middle of the wheel and just screw it in so it's nice and flush with the wheel. Then place the pointed end of the screw to your pilot hole and screw it all the way in. Now I am leaving it just a little bit slack so my wheels turn, but you can screw it all the way in place and make them stationary, or you can hot glue these in place if you like. And then I'm going to flip it over and repeat this for the other side. And now all 4 of our wheels are adhered to our wagon and they're rolling. They're looking great. Now to hide the screw, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of this black acrylic paint, take a little small paintbrush and just dab it right on top of the screw head on each side. And here are our screws all covered and the wheels look great. So now you can go ahead and set this to the side because our buckets are now done. And look, I love this hammered finish on them. It looks really great. Now to fill these, I'm just going to use some wildflowers that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to take them and fold them in half so they'll fit inside of the buckets. Now you certainly can cut them down to fit and maybe put some floral foam in there, but I always repurpose my flowers, so I want to keep that long stem just in case I have another project for them. So I'm just going to take those folded stem flowers and stick them inside of the buckets. And now you can take your wagon and you can put your buckets of flowers right inside. They will fit perfectly. And now you're ready to display your piece. And here is the wagon all decked out with our pots and our wildflowers. I just think this turned out so adorable. Now to make 2 of these, we'll need 3 packs of these Tumbling Tower Blocks from the Dollar Tree. And we'll need some craft sticks. You can get these from the Dollar Tree and Walmart. Now we're going to start by laying out the Surebonder silicone mat and grabbing those Tumbling Tower Blocks. Now I went ahead and stained all of my blocks first with my Jacobian Minwax stain. And here are all my blocks stained, and I didn't stain the ends to make sure that they would be able to glue together better. So I'm going to grab my straight edges, which are this carpenter square, and a piece of a wood stick for my straight edges today. Now I'll also be bonding these together with my Surebonder glue gun on high temperature and using the Surebonder wood stick glue sticks. Now the first set we're going to glue together, we're going to glue together 10 2-piece sets of blocks. Now we're just going to start by gluing these end to end, and we're just going to press them together. Now any glue that oozes out in between the seams, we want to wipe away immediately for a nice clean finish. And we're just going to repeat this process until we have our 10 sets. And then we can set these to the side. So the next set we're going to glue together, we're going to glue together 6 3-piece sets of blocks. So again, we're going to glue these end to end together, making sure we remove that glue, and we want to make sure it's nice and straight. And then repeat the process until you have all 6 pieces. And next we're going to glue together 4 7-piece sets. Now we are going to continue to glue these end to end, but you want to make sure that this is straight. So what I'm doing is I'm flipping over the block set as I glue it together. Now what this does is it makes sure that everything comes out nice and even and that your stick doesn't curve. And here is our nice straight 7-block set. And then we're just going to repeat this until we have 4 sets. Our final set will be 4 9-block pieces, and we're going to do this just like we did for our 7-piece set. So once you're all done, you're going to end up with 4 of the 9-piece block sets. You're going to have 4 of the 7-piece block sets. We're going to have 6 of those 3-piece block sets and 10 of those 2-piece block sets. Now, if you don't want to work with the blocks, a similar item can be used, and they're these 36-inch square dowels from Lowe's. Now, these are $1.68 a piece, and you will need 5 pieces totaling $8.40 for each frame. Now, it only costs $1.50 per frame using the blocks, so using the blocks come out to be a better bargain. Now, if you'd rather use the dowels, I have provided all of the length cuts that you will need to make this project in the description box below. So now I'm just going to lay out my grid mat and grab my carpenter square. Now we're going to start assembling our pieces, and we're going to grab one of those 3-block pieces and 2 of the 2-block pieces. And then we're going to add a 2-block piece at the bottom to make it look kind of like one of those football goals. So just go ahead and grab your ruler, lay your 3-piece block set out, and we're going to adhere one of those 2-block pieces at each end of that 3-block piece. Now again, when you adhere these, you want to make sure it's straight against that edge, and go ahead and wipe away that glue as you adhere them together. And this is what it looks like so far. So once you have that piece, we're going to take that last 2-block piece and we're going to put it right in the center of that 3-block piece as shown here. We want to press it firmly into place and wipe away that glue. And this is what it will look like. So now just grab some pieces and make a second one. And now we have our 2 pieces ready to go. So now we're just going to grab 4 of those 3-block pieces, and we are going to make a square. So we're just going to apply glue to the end of one of the 3-block pieces and place it on the end of the other piece, and then we're just going to rotate it around and add another one. Now once we have those 3 pieces together, we're just going to add that bottom end, and we just want to make sure that the 3-block pieces are sandwiched in between the other 2 3-block pieces on each end to form this square. So now that we have our square, we're going to take 4 of the 2-block pieces and we're going to place it on the center block on each side of that square piece. Now using your ruler and your grid mat together, go ahead and align the center of each one of those blocks, press it into place with a little bit of that glue. And then we're just going to rotate that square piece around until all the corners and all the sides have the 2-piece blocks in place. And now this piece is ready to go. So now we're ready to put the whole frame together. Go ahead and grab one of your 7-block sets and 2 of your 9-block sets. Now your 9-block sets will be on the outside of the frame and the 7-block sets will be across the center of the frame. We're going to grab one of our football goal pieces and we are going to center it right on that 7-block set where 2 of the blocks are off of each end, and that's how you get a good idea of where the center is. You want to go ahead and add some of that hot wood glue on each end and press it firmly into place. So once that's nice and adhered, we're going to take one of those 9-block pieces and we are going to add it at that top edge to form the corner of our frame. Just add a generous amount of that wood hot glue on there and press it firmly into place, making sure it's nice and even with the edge. Now once that's in place, we're just going to add another one of those 9-block pieces and put it at the bottom edge. Now we're going to grab another 7-block piece and we're going to place it right in the center between those 2 9-block pieces to form the top portion of our frame. We're just going to add some hot glue to the bottom of our little football goal side and the 2 ends to attach it to the frame securely. And here's what it looks like so far. So now we're going to add our square piece that we made and we are going to place it right in the center between the frame, and we just want to align the ends up perfectly. So you can see it aligns up with the end of our football goal and the edges of the frame, and we're just going to apply some of that hot wood glue on each of the ends that contact the frame and press it firmly into place, making sure everything is nice and secure. Now everything lines up really nice and even. So now we're going to put that to the side and grab one of our 7-block sets and our other little football goal piece, and we're going to apply the end of that football goal piece right in the center of that 7-piece set. Now on the other end of our football goal piece, we're going to take our last 7-piece set and we are going to center it on the top, just like we did on the other end. Just apply some of that wood hot glue in place and press it right in there. Now once that's nice and secure, we can attach all of the pieces together. We're just going to take the end of our square piece that we just put in there and put our football goal piece in there. Make sure they're nice and even and aligned, and apply a generous amount of hot glue right at that connection. Now once it is dry, go ahead and flip it over, and we're just going to make sure that all the glue that it seeped through is nice and clean and wiped away. So now for the top and bottom edges, we're going to take our last 9-block piece on the top and bottom, and you notice it's a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the cut line so it's nice and even with the top. Now I purposely did this last because I knew that these pieces can be a little off, so I wanted to make sure that this piece had a long piece to work with, so when we cut it, we wouldn't have to worry about cutting a really small piece. So I went out to my saw, I did cut those little bits off, and now they fit perfectly into place. So if everything looks good, go ahead and apply some of that hot glue to the ends where that last bit will be applied, that last piece will be applied in place, and press it firmly in there. And once that top piece is done, we'll repeat this for that bottom piece. And now our frame is actually fully assembled. It was really easy. So you notice there is some glue there, and what we're going to do is we're just going to go in and we're just going to pick away some of that glue that oozed out and that may be showing on the piece. So what we're going to do now is we are going to flip it good side down, and we are going to reinforce our frame. So to do this, I'm going to be using these craft sticks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the craft sticks and my wire clippers, and I'm going to start adhering it to the frame. Now, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to trim those craft sticks down to where each end of the craft sticks will overlap the junctions and actually end in a middle of one of the blocks, because we don't want the seams to line up with the seams of the blocks. We want that solid piece of the craft stick to overlap those seams, and this will create some really good reinforcement on our piece. So I'm just going to apply that wood glue to that craft stick on each piece that I cut, and I just want to apply this all over the entire back of the frame. And here is my entire back of the frame fully covered. Remember to use a generous amount of that wood hot glue. It really does firm up really well, and it makes this frame nice and solid. Now, as you can see, you can't see any of the craft sticks from the other side either. Now, don't throw away those little bits. We're going to take those little bits and we're just going to add them across any of the weak points that may appear, usually around where that little football goal piece is. We're just going to add these randomly around the back of the frame, just wherever you feel it needs a little bit more reinforcement, and I'm just using them up until they're all applied. So now I'm just going to do my last cleanup of any glue that may be showing to make the front nice and clean, and then taking my Dollar Tree broom and cleaning up all the hot glue webs. Now, when I dyed these with the stain, I did leave the ends bare, so that at this point you can go in and take your stain and put a little dab on each one of those exposed ends if you like. And now that you're a pro, you can go ahead and make 1, 2, or 3 more if you like. Now, adding a backing to this is actually really super easy. Here, I just took a piece of Dollar Tree poster board, I cut it to size, and then I taped it together. Then I just place your frame right on top, and you can use a permanent or temporary adhesive of your choice, and I think this really gives it a sophisticated look. And check it out with the white poster board. Now, I really love this too. Now, if you choose to use foam board or a solid wood back, you can actually skip that craft stick step. And here is my final project on display. Now, you guys, I am just so impressed on how these turned out. Listen, I hope that you all enjoyed seeing these creations again, or for some of you, for the very first time. I hope that these DIYs have inspired you to create these decor pieces, or even your own amazing home decor using the Tumbling Tower Blocks. Now, if you love DIYs on a budget, please give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. You want to make sure that you're following She's So Crafty EE on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest for the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. Now, if you like videos like these and you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you're subscribed by clicking the subscribe button below, or just click on my She's So Crafty logo on your screen and then click that little bell so you'll be notified when my next video is about to go live. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.